Hey here, my friend. Welcome to the channel. Today, I want to give you a three-step plan to increase exposure for your art and get noticed in 2026. I'm going to talk about how to stand out in a changing art world without the overwhelm.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
You probably agree that right now everything feels saturated. Wherever you go, feels like there's so much noise out there. So how do you stand out? How do you find new opportunities for your art? Well, let's first address why this matters now. Well, my friend, we all agree the art world has changed. Let's start with the AI, right? AI is everywhere. AI will continue to be everywhere. It's going to take a big part of what we do everywhere we go. It feels like, when it comes to our content in social media as well, so much of it now is done with AI. It's hard to distinguish what's real and what's not. And that is a problem, right, for us as artists, because we are there in a way competing with all the content that is there already in the world. The market feels crowded. Again, you are not the only artist. You are one of thousands of artists who are also trying to get out there. Social media is noisy. It just feels harder and harder to get views, to reach new people, etc. Opportunities also seem harder to find because also now you have so many scams that are hitting artists all the time, and artists do not know, like, is this a real opportunity? Is it a scam? Is it worth my time and effort or not? Or is it a waste of time, right? Unfortunately, many artists are having a hard time trying to figure out what is a good opportunity. Artists are wondering how to stand out today. But change also, my friend, is important. Change also creates new doors. We're going to talk about that too. How do we find, how do we build, how do we create new doors for our art career? Because here's the real problem. Many artists are working hard, but still feel invisible. You may be creating the work, you may be, in the studio all the time, posting online, applying to tons of opportunities that you see, calls to artists, etc., trying to stay consistent with your art, but still wondering how in the world do I actually get my art seen by the right people? Not just seen, right? Now, seen by the people that matter, by the people who are attracted to you and to your work. And that seems to be more difficult all the time. Because the old way is not enough anymore. What used to work some 20 years ago is not working anymore. Wanting to be discovered is not a visibility strategy anymore. I remember when I went to art school so many, many years ago, kind of like that was the dream, right? You go into your studio, a gallery will discover you or a curator will discover you, and now they'll make your art career. All you got to do is just keep making art. It was kind of like a dream, an illusion. The reality of the world is so different. There's also a new opportunity, right? I talk about this is like the problem, but there's also new opportunity. Changes also do create new opportunities for us. You may need more than one path. That's the reality in the world of 2026, right? Where visibility is not just doing it one way. Now there are multiple ways of getting and achieving the success you're looking for as an artist. The artists getting noticed are not always working harder. And you probably agree with me. Just because you work harder doesn't mean that you're going to get more success. When you look at the art world, it feels like the opposite. Like you look at something like, how did that make it to the top? How does a banana with a duct tape made it to the news worldwide when it comes to art, right? The ones who are getting more noticed are the ones who understand how to leverage the opportunities of this moment. So we're going to start with step number one, super important, which is clarify your visibility message. So that's step number one. You have to clarify your visibility message. So before you chase new opportunities, you need clarity, right? Before you start looking for the next show, for the next call for artists, for the next thing, the next gallery, you gotta really clarify your message. If your message is unclear as an artist, people do not know how to connect with your work. Visibility begins with clarity. And by this, I don't mean I explain everything about your art. I believe people need to discover your art. But what I'm talking about is helping them take that first step, and then let the artwork speak for itself. I meet with a lot of artists sometimes comes to my gallery or or to my coaching programs and say, hey, so, I just want the art to speak for itself. That's amazing. It should speak for itself, but that does not disqualify you from not having to do anything, and pull back. If that's what you're doing, then you're missing out on great opportunities, and that's why others are getting in front of you, and that's why others are taking the opportunities that perhaps belong to you, right? Because you don't know how to introduce your artwork to the world. Think of it this way. Let's say you invite me to a party and I bring a friend, and that friend, has done something amazing in the world, right? So if I meet you at the party and you say, hi, Sergio, how are you? And like, great, I want to introduce you to this friend that came with me. And she has done such and such things. So now you have an opportunity to hear from my friend, right? Which will tell you everything about that. My only job was to make the introduction. This is what she is. This is what you should need to hear her what she's got to say. That's all. And as an artist, we're doing exactly the same thing with our art. We're just making the introduction and then let the art speak for itself, let people engage with it. But a lot of artists, we still have such a hard time, clarifying our message. And that's why this one is so important. So ask yourself these questions, and this will help you clarify your message today. What do you want to be known for as an artist, right? Your work needs a clear point of connection. Think about that question. What do you want to be known for? So I'm going to give you a series of about 5 questions that you can ask right now to help you answer that big question of what do you want to be known for. So here we go. What is your work about? Write it down. What is your work about? And that is like in general terms, right? Not a very specific each artwork, although you can do that for each artwork, but in general, right? What is your work about? I can tell you, my work's about the cycles of life and our spiritual connection and awareness throughout those cycles. That's it. Kind of like simplify. I do a lot of things, but just kind of the overall, vision for my art is that. What story does it carry? What is the narrative behind your art? For me, it's like cycles of life, right? This idea of discovering the cycle of life from birth to death. And thus, I build so many stories in between that, right? So think about that question. What do I want people to feel? What do I want people to feel? In my case, the way I answer that question is I want people to feel that there's like this spiritual connection. A lot of people describe it as kind of like ethereal, or they see my work and they feel like something, the spiritual aspect to it, right? And that's exactly what I'm going for, what I want people to feel. What do I want people to remember, right? To me, like I want them to remember that connection that they created with that figure that is depicted on the canvas. So think about for yourself, what is it that you want people to remember about your art? Why does this work matter now in the world of 2026? Why does it matter, right? And that is all about contextualizing your art in the world. Very important question that many of us, we don't ask. Why does it matter? Because at the end of the day, we go into the studio, we create the art that, is important to us right now. You are making in 2026 the artwork that's important to you. It's impossible that the artwork that you're doing now would have been created 20 years ago, because you were a totally different person than you are today. And that's exactly what it's all about. Many, many years ago, I learned about this through a friend of mine who was the director of a museum in Chicago, and I met with her, had a great conversation, and says, Sergio says, it's very important that artists learn how to contextualize their art in the world. And that's exactly what she was talking about. Answering the question, why does this artwork matter now? Why does it matter to me right now? And that's exactly what it's about. So ask yourself those questions that will help you, get ahead in your art career. Matters in 2026. In a world of AI, where AI is everywhere, your humanity now is your advantage, right? Where everything seems to be perfected, curated by AI, fixed, the now kind of like our humanity is the only thing that we have left. And that actually becomes your advantage. Your story cannot be copied, right? Because you are the only one who has lived it. Your lived experience matters, right? Like the experiences that you had to make you the artist that you are today, all that matters, right? And you're the only one who has lived those specifically. And your point of view is part of your work too. How you see the world, the way that you look at the art, you look at the world, you look at politics, the way you look at economics, the way you look at society. all that impacts also the art you make. This is what helps your art stand out when you are able to articulate those things. And if you have taken one of my branding classes before, you kind of recognize that. When I talk about your brand is your story, also your influences, and as well as your values, right? The combination of those three things is what makes a unique story. And that's you. That cannot be replicated because you're the only one who had lived it. That's exactly the three things that I talk about, right? Your story, your influences, and your values, your point of view. So when you are able to articulate those things and how they influence your art, all of a sudden you have this beautiful narrative. You have this beautiful way of talking about your art that people can remember, that help you stand out in the world of AI or any type of conversation that you may have with someone. So here's a quick takeaway for step one. If you cannot clearly communicate why your work matters, it becomes harder to others to remember it, to share it with their friends, to buy it or collect it, or for curators and galleries to invite you into new opportunities because they cannot figure out who you are and what is it that you do, right? Why your art matters. So work on that and that will help you out. So I hope this is making sense, my friend. Now you got step one, communication, super important. Let's go to step number two. Step number two is choose your visibility pathway. In other words, choose how you're going to get out in the world so people can see you. Stop chasing every opportunity that comes your way, every email that asks for something. Stop chasing that. Choose the right doors for your art, your season, and your goals. There is not just one path anymore. We got to remember that there are many ways to become an artist today. There are many paths. The single path that, was out in the world like 25 years ago, where like the only way to get out in the world was through a gallery. That's gone. That's just one option. There are multiple options. So let's talk about some of those options. I believe there are three visibility pathways, right, that any artist can take. These are three major visibility pathways available to artists today around the world. Pathway number one is what will be like the traditional opportunities, which I'll talk about in a second. Pathway number two, market and relationship opportunities. Pathway number three, self-created opportunities, with a lot of artists are doing right now. You do not need to do all of these at once. You need the right one that is right for you right now. So let's go through each one really quickly. So you start kind of thinking about which pathway is the right one for me right now in 2026. So pathway number one is the traditional opportunities, right? This is like working with galleries, museums, institutions, universities, art centers, organizations, curated exhibitions that you participate, biennials, etc., right? This pathway is about professional positioning, also about research, how your art fits within these galleries, within this ecosystem, and also the relationships that you build in this traditional pathway, right? These traditional opportunities. This has been around for a long time, right? Galleries have been around for a long time. So, that's a traditional pathway that most artists cannot do understand. Traditional opportunities may be a good fit for you if you have, for example, a cohesive body of work. Because that's what galleries want. That's what museums, institutions want. They're looking for cohesive bodies of work, or cohesive collections. If your artwork is all over the place, it's going to be really hard for you to work with a gallery. That's the bottom line. If you want curatorial validation, then this pathway is for you. If you are ready to build professional relationships, then this is for you. If you can present your work clearly, you're able to articulate your work clearly, like what I said in step one, then this path is for you, because you're going to have to do that, when you are approaching galleries, when you're putting an artist statement, when you're talking about ideas for a show, etc. If you are willing to research before reaching out, this usually takes also a lot of time to figure out which galleries may be a good fit for me, to approach them, etc., right? So if all these things check, then the traditional pathway is a pathway that you might consider. That might be a good pathway for you. Let's talk about pathway number two, which is market and relationship opportunities. This is when you find opportunities outside of the traditional pathway, right? In this case, I'm talking about working with art consultants, working with interior designers, working with corporate collectors or collections, working with art advisors, working directly with curators, working, for example, also with art fairs, participating in an art fair, for example. This pathway is more about presenting your work clearly for people who place, recommend, buy, or represent art, right? Versus with the traditional art gallery. Because a lot of art consultants, for example, they don't have a gallery. They work independently, and they work with clients and with interior designers or an advisor, right? This is where you work with an intermediary between you and the collector in order to position your artwork somewhere. And this is becoming also more common for many artists who are kind of working outside of the gallery system and kind of like partnering with some of these people in order to get their artwork out there. And it's another pathway, right? It's a pathway that a lot of artists kind of are opting on because a lot of galleries are closing or galleries are really hard to reach. So, they're also working with artists, with professionals in this matter, or more artists now participating in art fairs as well around the world where they go and they participate and they bring their art to the general public through the art fair for that week or that weekend. So again, this is another pathway. Maybe some of you may be more involved in this pathway. Maybe some of you actually want to get more into this pathway and are asking, how do I find art consultants? How do I find interior designers? How do I get in front of them in this case? And market and relationship opportunities may be a good fit for you if you have available work ready to show them, right? If you know your pricing, like you're not a newbie, but like you have already have some experience pricing your art, you know where you fit in the ecosystem of art. You have an organized studio system, so when they ask you for information, you're able to deliver really fast. You are open to relationships outside of the gallery systems, right? And you want sales channels beyond what you get from a gallery or from social media, right? So if these are kind of things that check for you, then this second pathway of relationship opportunity may be a good one for you, where you enter the market through these professionals as well. So again, think about, is this something that could be a good fit for me? I will be willing to explore. And then pathway number 3, which is kind of a pathway that is becoming more and more kind of like mainstream for many artists now in 2026, is the self-created opportunities, where artists say, you know what, it's so hard to get in a gallery, so hard to find an art consultant. I'm just going to start building and creating my own opportunities, right? Building my own thing. So this, for example, be open studios where I say, you know what, I don't need a gallery to tell me when I can do an open studio. I'm going to organize my open studio, or a pop-up exhibition, or a private preview of my work, or an online exhibition, or a Zoom studio visit, right? Or studio events where I bring people for a tour, or community partnerships, or sponsored events where I look for sponsors in my community that can support what I'm doing. This pathway is about not waiting for permission, right? It's about thinking about, I don't need the blessing of the art gallery in order to be an artist. I don't need validation of the art gallery. I want to do this myself. I want to work towards building something of value by myself. And so many artists are doing that right now. And now it becomes a lot easier too, because we have tools that we never had before. We have the internet and we have social media, 2 tools that allow you to, get on the radar of a lot of people and build your own thing. And this is becoming more and more kind of a pathway that a lot of artists are taking, and particularly also because art school is becoming so incredibly expensive that many artists cannot even, even if they wanted to, they cannot afford going to art school. So, they are building their own opportunities, and that is totally fine. It's totally okay. It's a different pathway, right? And we should respect all the different pathways. I always tell artists, you pick the pathway that fits for you and let the others pick their own pathway, don't worry if they don't pick the pathway that you think is the best, because you pick the one that's best for you. Let everybody else pick their own pathway. So this is one that for many artists has become quite important. Self-created opportunities may be a good fit for you right now if, let's see if you check all these boxes, because you want to create momentum now, right? You're not willing to wait 6 months until you find a gallery, or 6 months until you find an art consultant. Like, no, I want to start building something now. So this might be a good pathway for you. If you have access to a studio or a home or a local space or an online audience or something that you can, a channel in which you can connect with people, then we all have social media these days. So that could be for you. I have helped so many artists in my program, for example, with the Small World Artists Challenge, where they use it to grab attention from the friends and family and the people who know them through social media, even if they have small audiences, and many have done amazing, incredible things. So, you know, there are ways to build your own opportunities. Also, it's a good fit for you if you want to invite people into your world, right? You're like, yes, I want to invite people in to see what I'm doing in the world, and are ready to build your own platform, your own systems, and you do not want to be chosen, right? You don't want to wait to be chosen by a gallery or by a curator and such. And here's a beautiful thing as well, when it comes to these different pathways, is that you can pick your pathway. You can also cross over different pathways. It's not like you pick one pathway and that's where you stay forever. I have done all the ones that I mentioned. I have done solo exhibitions in galleries, museums, institutions. I have traveled with my art. I have also created my own shows in my own open studios and my own things. I have worked with consultants. I have done it all. So that's the beautiful thing about being an artist in the world today in 2026, is that you can ask yourself, what does it make sense for me right now, in this very moment, so that I can focus on what makes sense for me right now versus trying to do everything or see, kind of living it as a chance. So ask yourself these questions: what visibility pathway makes the most sense for me in this very moment as I'm listening to Sergio? Which of these resonates with me the most? Are traditional opportunities, or market and relationship opportunities, or self-created opportunities? Sometimes, like, you gotta be like serious and say, hey, maybe I've been trying to find a gallery for the last year and I just cannot find one gallery. Maybe it's time for me to say, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna start building my own opportunities. In the meantime, I find a gallery if that's still important for you, or instead of, wasting time trying to find another gallery. And if another gallery comes in the way, awesome. But if not, I'm building my own opportunities. That's another way of looking at it. Now, many artists are in the opposite, like saying, you know what? I've already done some of my own opportunities, but I really now want to focus on finding a gallery because I have this beautiful body of work and that is important for me. So again, you focus on that pathway and you stop wasting time trying to do other things. You do not need to do everything, try to open every door. You need just the right door that makes sense for you right now. And that is super, super important. So key takeaway for step number 2, visibility becomes overwhelming when you try to chase every opportunity out there. Visibility becomes more powerful when you choose the right pathway and move with intention in your art career. So that's what I want to tell you for step number 2. Avoid overwhelm. Maybe you are watching this video right now, or listening to the podcast, and you're like, I feel overwhelmed. So many things in my mind. Well, you're trying to do too much. You're trying to do everything. You don't have a plan, right? You don't have a blueprint. And that's what I'm here to help you. Pick a blueprint that can help you. Pick a pathway that makes sense for you right now so you can work at it with intention. Okay, let's go to step number 3. I love step number 3 because it brings the two that we talk about together into the third one, which is build your opportunity blueprint, right? Or your strategy. I love the word blueprint. It's kind of like what an architect uses when they're building a house. It's a blueprint, right? That really details the plan, how things are going to go floor by floor, where things are going to be located, what size, etc. Right? So it's like your master plan for the future. It's a blueprint, and we need one. Exposure doesn't just happen by accident. It needs a rhythm, it needs a plan, and it needs follow through, and that is super important. So let's dive into step number 3, building your opportunity blueprint. So let's talk about what goes into that blueprint. Okay, Sergio, I have a pen, I have a pencil, and I have a notepad. How do I build my blueprint? Well, your opportunity blueprint should include this thing. It should include your visibility message. Step 1, where we talk about a clear, defined language and message that you're going to communicate to the world. So work on that. Your visibility message should be there. You can write it down. Simple questions to the answers to the questions I gave you. That's what your visibility message. Don't make it long. It's not a long art statement. It should be simple answers, right? Because again, remember, that's just an introduction for your art. It's not the whole of your art, just an introduction. Remember the example I used. Then you also need, in a blueprint, an opportunity blueprint, you should include also your best fit pathway. Of those 3 pathways, which one is the best one that fits for me right now in 2026. That might change 6 months from now, a year from now, but like right now, which one? Which one makes sense? Which one is more viable? Not which one I'm dreaming about. Which one is more viable, right? Which one is your top opportunity target as well? Meaning like your targets is like your deadline, right? By when do I want to do these things, and what is the timeline that I'm focusing for? That's my opportunity target. Also, what professional materials you need right now for that particular opportunity that you're seeking. So, for example, if you are trying to search for a gallery right now, approaching galleries, then you need to have portfolio, you need to have a body of work, you need to have an artist statement, all the kind of professional things that an art gallery will be looking for, not just the art. Now, you're trying to do, for example, your own open studio event, in the next 2 months, then professional materials you need, like I need to create labels. I need to also make sure I have a price sheet. I need to create a press release, etc. Right? So different materials are needed for each opportunity that you want to address. Also, in your blueprint, you need to have your outreach plan. How am I going to get to those people, right? Very important. It's not just what do I want to do, but how am I going to reach the right people for the right opportunities I'm looking for? If it's a gallery that you're looking for, how am I going to reach gallery curators, gallery directors, galleries in general? If it's you're working with institutions, how am I going to reach the museum, right? If you're creating your own studio event or your own show, how am I going to reach people so they can come to my event? You need also to include self-created opportunity ideas. I think you should always be cooking new ideas in your mind of things that you may want to do. And even if you don't do them at this point, but you are always cooking or thinking about new ideas that you can pursue in the future. I have a whole notepad with ideas that I'm always writing because I never know when I'm going to revisit one of those ideas and actually make it come to life. So that's what I would include in a opportunity blueprint. So here's my takeaway for step number 3. Visibility does not begin by doing everything. It begins by opening one clear door at a time. So let's recap the 3-step plan that I just gave you. Step 1, clarify your visibility message. Know what your work is about and why it matters so that you can use that as an introduction for your art. It's not the whole story, just an introduction for your art. Step number 2, choose your visibility pathway. Decide which door makes the most sense for you right now. And step number 3, build your opportunity blueprint. Turn visibility into a simple action plan. So it's not just a nice video that you saw me do or just a nice podcast that you listen while you were doing your exercise. No, you actually need to have a plan, a blueprint that you can take action upon. And here's the honest truth, my friend. That's super important that we want to address. Inspiration is not enough. Just this episode is not enough. You can live today feeling encouraged, like, okay, Sergio, that's awesome. Now I know I'm going to work on this. I'm going to get focused. And you know what's going to happen? Like 3 days from now, you're going to forget about this episode because you're going to watch another video on YouTube from somebody else who's telling you, you should do these 3 things. And then the next day you watch or you listen to a podcast that tell you, no, you need to do these other 3 things. And before you know it, you are already on square one trying to do it all. But if you do not build a plan, nothing changes. If you don't have a structure, a rhythm, nothing changes. That's why I also, I wanted to share with you that I created a challenge. And this is an amazing challenge that I do inside the Next Level program. And this challenge, my friend, I'm so excited because I haven't done this challenge in about maybe 4 years. And the reason why is because the world was changing so much so quickly. And I totally redid the challenge. It's brand new. And I'm so excited because it's called From Your Studio to the World Challenge. And answers the question, how do I take what I make in the studio out into the world, right? Looking at all those 3 pathways that I just gave you. And we work in detail on each one. So let's say if your pathway is like, you know what, I really want to find a gallery this year. Well, then you focus on that. And I'm going to give you everything you need to know about finding a gallery in new ways in 2026. What galleries are looking for in 2026, not just great art. That's just the start. There are many other things that the galleries in the world that they are looking for in an artist. Or maybe your pathway is one of self opportunities. Like, you know what, Sergio, I want to create my own thing, my own shows, curate my own events. Well, we're going to also address that and give you everything that you need to produce your own very successful shows and events, which I have done myself. So this challenge, my friend, is a 6-week visibility and opportunity challenge for artists from around the world. Take 6 weeks because again, we go in detail looking at one at a time. And it happens inside the Art Next Level community, which we are so excited. It's a growing community of artists from around the world. It's a community that we started some 12 years ago. It continues to be an amazing resource for now thousands of artists that have come through our programs, through our community, through our challenges, and we are super excited. And here's the promise in the challenge from your studio to the world. In 6 weeks, you will build your professional and personalized studio to the world playbook, your blueprint that I was talking about right here. You're going to create that. We're going to give you for each week also a PDF that you download and that you work it. So at the end, you have a playbook. What's a playbook? It's like it's a binder, where you have all these different lessons that when you look at it any given time, you say, okay, this is what I am right now. This is what makes sense for me. Maybe 6 months from now, once you achieve that goal, you pull that binder again, that playbook, and say, okay, this is who I am right now. These are the goals that I have. This is what I need to do, right? It gives you a playbook that not only good for now, but it's going to be good for, the rest of your art career, because you keep pulling those things and seeing what makes sense for you at any given time. And the challenge, my friend, gives you a clear blueprint to help you pursue galleries or museums or consultants or designers or calls for artists or art fairs or open studios or self-created exhibitions, or maybe finding sponsors for your art and supporters, or whichever is the one that fits for you right now. But guess what? Once you focus on that, then later you might need to focus on a different one, and you will already have that playbook. So my friend, to join us is super simple. And to learn more about the challenge, just go to theartistnextlevel.com/studio. Again, www.theartistnextlevel.com/studio. I'll tell you how the challenge works. I give you a link to our school community where you can just join right there. There's a 7-day free trial, so you can test it for 7 days. Go inside, see how it looks, see if it's a good fit for you. No, don't feel like obligated. You have 7 days. If it's good for you, then you stay in the challenge. It's a membership. The webpage to give you all the information, all the pricing and everything for that. And then if you don't like it, just for the 7 days, you can cancel. And that's it. You didn't pay anything. So go check it out. It's really awesome. All right, my friend, thank you so much for your time. I hope to see you inside the challenge from your studio to the world.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.